Analysts are predicting a $40,000 Bitcoin price, and it looks like we could be not too far away from actually being able to hit that price. I'm also going to show you guys the trading charts here in just a moment. And as usual, this article link that I'm referencing to, I will have a link to that down in the description below. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into the video. Let's start off here taking a look at the trading charts. We can see that there's been a little bit of sideways action as of the last couple days for Bitcoin. But if we do zoom in here a tad bit, that sideways action is still causing some price movements right around the $38,400 price level. So we're not too far off from $40,000. Another thing to take into consideration is my favorite technical analysis trend, which is the golden cross and the death cross. Here we have a golden cross where that 50 moving average, excuse me, that 50 moving average crossed above the 200 moving average back here around October 29th. So frankly, it's not that surprising to see that we had a nice parabolic run up and it's having a further continuation going up, because with a golden cross, that is a strong indicator of a bull market. Take that into combination with this rumor that we might be seeing a Bitcoin ETF being approved soon. So that is some really big news. Now, moving back over here to the article, this is titled CME Bitcoin Futures Show Investors Betting on $40,000 Bitcoin Price. The Bitcoin futures annualized premium jumped to 34% on November 28th, leading analysts to speculate about an imminent spot Bitcoin ETF approval. The demand for institutional investors for Bitcoin became evident on November 10th as the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, or CME, Bitcoin futures flipped Binance's Bitcoin futures market in terms of size. According to Bitcoin derivatives metrics, those investors are showing strong confidence in Bitcoin's potential to break above the $40,000 mark in the short term. CME's current Bitcoin futures open interest stands at 4.35 billion, the highest since November 2021, when Bitcoin hit its all-time high of $69,000, a clear indication of heightened interest. But is it enough to justify further price gains? CME's remarkable growth in the spot Bitcoin ETF speculation. The impressive 125% surge in CME's Bitcoin futures open interest from 1.93 billion in mid-October is undoubtedly tied to the anticipation of the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF. However, it's important to note that there's no direct correlation between this movement and the actions of market makers or issuers. Cryptocurrency analyst JJ Cycles raised this hypothesis in a November 26th social media post. To avoid the high costs associated with futures contracts, institutional investors have various options. For instance, they could opt for CME Bitcoin options, which require less capital and offer similar leverage long exposure. Additionally, regulated ETF and exchange traded notes, or ETN, trading in regions like Canada, Brazil, and Europe provide alternatives. It seems somewhat naive to believe that the world's largest asset managers would take risky gambles using derivatives contracts on a decision that depends on the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, and is not expected until mid-January. Yet, the undeniable growth in CME Bitcoin futures open interest is hard evidence that institutional investors are setting their sight in the cryptocurrency. It might seem naive to think that the world's largest asset managers would take significant risks with derivatives contracts on a decision dependent on the SEC, expected only in mid-January. However, the undeniable growth in CME Bitcoin futures open interest underscores the increasing interest of institutional investors in the cryptocurrency market. CME's Bitcoin futures signaled extreme optimism on November 28th. While CME's Bitcoin futures activity has been steadily rising, the most noteworthy development has been the spike in the contract's annualized premium, or basis rate. In neutral markets, monthly futures contracts typically trade with a 5% to 10% basis rate to account for longer settlement times. This situation, known as contango, is not unique to cryptocurrency derivatives. On November 28th, the analyzed premium for CME Bitcoin futures surged from 15% to 34%, eventually stabilizing at 23% by day's end. A basis rate exceeding 20% indicates substantial optimism, suggesting that buyers were willing to pay a substantial premium to establish leveraged long positions. Currently, the metric stands at 14%, indicating that whatever caused the unusual movement is no longer a factor. It's worth noting that during that 8 hour period on November 28th, Bitcoin's price rose from $37,100 to $38,200. However, it's challenging to determine whether the surge was driven by the spot market or futures contracts, as arbitrage between the two occurs in milliseconds. Instead of fixating on intraday price movements, traders should look to Bitcoin options markets data for confirmation of heightened interest from institutional investors. If traders anticipate a decline in Bitcoin's price, a delta skew metric above 7% is expected, whereas periods of excitement typically result in a minus 7% skew. Over the past month, the 30-day Bitcoin options 25% delta skew has consistently remained below the minus 7% threshold, standing near minus 10% on November 28th. This data supports the bullish sentiment among institutional investors using CME Bitcoin futures, casting doubt on the theory of whales accumulating assets ahead of a potential spot ETF approval. In essence, derivatives metrics do not indicate excessive short-term optimism. If whales and market makers were genuinely 90% certain of SEC approval, in line with the expectations of Bloomberg's ETF analysts, the Bitcoin options delta skew would likely be much lower. Nonetheless, with Bitcoin's price trading near $38,000, it appears that bulls will continue to challenge resistance levels as long as the hope for a spot ETF approval remains a driving force. So let us know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. Do you think we're on track to hitting $40,000? Do you think we could do it before the end of the year? Would love to get your thoughts and opinions on this. Tell us down in the comments below. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. A double shout out thank you to We Love, Victor Vegas, OzMoonX for being higher level patrons, and also thank you to my YouTube members. God bless. We'll see you in the next episode.